What happens when a single woman reshapes the destiny of a nation? Not through love or compassion, but through seduction, manipulation, and unrelenting defiance against God Himself. Jezebel was not just another queen in the long line of rulers who sat upon Israel's throne. She was something far more dangerous, the embodiment of rebellion dressed in royal robes. She has been remembered for centuries as a name synonymous with corruption, idolatry, and the ultimate fall from grace. Yet, the true story of Jezebel is far darker and far more mysterious than most imagine. Was she merely an ambitious queen who fought to maintain her power, or was there something deeper, something almost otherworldly behind her rise and eventual ruin? And how does her story echo down through history as a warning that still feels terrifyingly relevant today? Jezebel was born the daughter of a Phoenician king, a people known for their wealth, seafaring trade, and devotion to the god Baal. From her earliest days, she would have been steeped in a culture of ritual sacrifice, idol worship, and practices utterly foreign to the covenant of Israel. When she was married to King Ahab of Israel, it was not merely a political alliance, it was the entrance of a foreign queen who carried with her the spiritual weight of a foreign god. She did not simply adapt to the traditions of her new land. Instead, she sought to transform them. Through Jezebel, Baal worship was not just introduced into Israel, it was enthroned. She raised up prophets of Baal, silenced the prophets of Yahweh, and turned the hearts of a people away from the God of their fathers. But the danger Jezebel posed was not limited to religious corruption. She understood something many rulers did not, that power is not only taken through armies and laws, but through influence, seduction, and fear. Her very presence became a test of loyalty. To follow her was to embrace rebellion. To resist her was to invite destruction. It is here that Jezebel's story takes on a chilling resemblance to a theme woven throughout Scripture, the rise of those who exalt themselves against God, only to be cast down in shame. Jezebel becomes not just a queen of Israel's history, but a living archetype, a shadow of what happens when the throne of power is married to the throne of idolatry. Yet, as much as her story seems fixed in the ancient world, Jezebel's spirit lingers like a dark echo through time. In the book of Revelation, centuries after her death, the name Jezebel is used again not as a memory of the woman herself, but as a symbol of false prophecy, seduction, and spiritual corruption within the early church. This mysterious link suggests that Jezebel's legacy was not just about her earthly reign, but about a spiritual force that transcended history. Could it be that Jezebel was more than a queen, that she represented a power that has resurfaced again and again, cloaked in new forms, throughout the ages? Her story begins with marriage, but it is not a story of love. It is a story of a pact, a merging of kingdoms, and a door being opened that would unleash chaos upon Israel. Ahab, Israel's king, was described in the Bible as doing more evil in the sight of the Lord than any king before him. But it was Jezebel who stoked the fire. She manipulated her husband, guided his decisions, and emboldened him in wickedness. And when Ahab faltered, Jezebel herself took matters into her own hands, as when she orchestrated the murder of Naboth to seize his vineyard. Through such acts, she showed that she was not content to rule quietly from the shadows. She was willing to stain her hands with blood if it meant expanding her power. The clash between Jezebel and the prophet Elijah is one of the most dramatic confrontations in Scripture. On Mount Carmel, Elijah stood alone against hundreds of prophets of Baal, a contest to reveal whose God was truly alive. Fire fell from heaven, consuming Elijah's sacrifice and proving the power of Yahweh. Yet Jezebel was undeterred. Instead of submitting, she vowed revenge, sending Elijah fleeing into the wilderness. This defiance reveals the core of Jezebel's character. Even in the face of undeniable truth, she refused to bow. Her pride was greater than her fear, and her rebellion deeper than her reason. Jezebel's reign was not eternal, however. Prophecy had already sealed her fate. Elijah declared that dogs would devour her flesh, leaving no trace of her body. The gruesome image was not merely a prediction of her death, but a symbolic judgment, stripping her of dignity and leaving her legacy as a warning. Yet even this prophecy was not fulfilled immediately. Jezebel continued to wield influence for years, outlasting her husband and ruling through her sons. Her ability to cling to power, despite the prophetic shadow over her, is a testament to the sheer force of her will and the depth of her cunning. What makes Jezebel's story so haunting is not just the wickedness of her actions, but the sense that she was more than a historical figure. She was a vessel of something greater, a living symbol of defiance against God. In this sense, her story connects the dots between Eden, where Eve was tempted by the serpent to seize forbidden knowledge, and the future visions of Revelation, where spiritual seduction threatens the purity of the church. Jezebel becomes part of a mysterious thread that ties together rebellion, idolatry, and divine judgment. Her life becomes a warning not only to ancient Israel, but to every generation that follows. So, who truly was Jezebel? Was she simply a queen, corrupted by ambition? Or was she the physical manifestation of a darker spiritual force, one that continues to echo in every age, whispering rebellion into the hearts of those who seek power at any cost? What if Jezebel's power was more than political ambition or religious influence? What if her very presence in Israel marked the beginning of a hidden struggle between divine authority and human cunning that would echo through generations? Jezebel, the daughter of the Sidonian king, was more than a queen. She was a symbol of defiance, a figure whose intellect and will challenged not only her contemporaries, but the very order of God's chosen people. From the moment she stepped into the palace of Ahab, the air of Samaria shifted. Her faith in Baal and Astarte was not a simple cultural inheritance, it was a statement, a calculated assertion that the kingdom's destiny could be molded by human hands, guided by the gods she served. Her influence quickly became undeniable. Temples rose under her decree, sacrifices were offered, and prophets loyal to the God of Israel faced persecution. Yet Jezebel's story is not merely one of cruelty or tyranny. It is also a narrative of strategy, resilience, and an unwavering grasp of power in a male-dominated society. She understood that survival in a palace was about more than obedience, was about control, and she wielded it with an artistry that terrified her enemies. The confrontation with Elijah on Mount Carmel represents not just a religious dispute, but a battle of cosmic proportions. The dramatic display of fire descending from heaven exposed the fragility of human alliances with divine forces. For Jezebel, it was a turning point, yet she did not retreat. She fortified her position, orchestrated plots, and ensured that her vision for Israel would endure, even if it meant manipulating, intimidating, and eliminating those who stood in her way. One of the most infamous episodes, the death of Naboth over his vineyard, illustrates the lengths she would go to achieve her aims. Jezebel's orchestration of false accusations and executions reveals a mind capable of cold, calculated moves. But beyond the personal ambition lies a deeper understanding. She was building a kingdom aligned with her beliefs, a civilization that would reflect her vision of divine favor, not just political power. Despite her formidable presence, Jezebel's fate was foretold. Prophecies spoke of her violent end, her body consumed and defiled, a stark warning that no mortal, however cunning, could fully escape divine justice. Yet her legacy defies death. The name Jezebel became synonymous with rebellion, seduction, and the dark allure of power. Through biblical texts, historical interpretation, and cultural memory, she remains a figure whose influence resonates beyond her lifetime. Her story challenges us to ask, was Jezebel merely an embodiment of evil, or was she a woman navigating the perilous intersection of politics, religion, and survival? Did her audacity threaten only Israel, or did it expose the vulnerabilities of humanity itself when ambition eclipses morality? In tracing her rise and fall, we uncover not just a historical figure, but a lens into the forces that shape civilizations, the relentless push and pull between divine authority, human will, and the consequences of power wielded without restraint. The shadow of Jezebel stretches far beyond the borders of Samaria. Ancient texts hint at her involvement in networks of influence reaching into the courts of surrounding kingdoms, where alliances were cemented not merely with trade or marriage, but with subtle manipulation and the promise of shared divine favor. Her ability to navigate these treacherous waters speaks to a mind that was both brilliant and dangerous, a combination that history rarely forgives. And yet, her narrative is layered with complexity, while her actions against the prophets of Israel paint her as ruthless. They also reflect a sophisticated understanding of the fragile balance between faith and governance. In a world where the king's authority was intertwined with divine sanction, Jezebel recognized that controlling belief meant controlling power itself. Her interventions were calculated moves to secure not just the throne of Ahab, but the broader vision of a kingdom aligned with her ideology of vision, in which Baal and Astarte were not only honored but central to the identity of Israel itself. The tension between Jezebel and the prophetic voices of Israel embodies a universal struggle, the confrontation between established authority and disruptive influence. Elijah, with his unwavering devotion, represents a principle that cannot be compromised: the supremacy of God. Jezebel represents the human drive to challenge, to assert autonomy, and to bend divine narrative to human ambition. The clash of these forces results in a drama that is both historical and timeless, a story that resonates with anyone who has witnessed the collision of ideology, power, and morality. Ultimately, Jezebel's downfall is both dramatic and symbolic. When Yahweh executed his campaign, capturing Samaria and ensuring her death, the fulfillment of prophecy was undeniable. Her demise was violent, chaotic, and public, a deliberate testament to the consequences of defying divine order. Yet even in death, Jezebel's shadow remained. The stories of her life became cautionary tales, and her name evolved into an archetype of seduction, manipulation, and the dangerous allure of unchecked power. The lessons of Jezebel's reign extend far beyond her era. Her story serves as a mirror to humanity, to the ways ambition can corrupt, the ways ideology can entrench itself, and the delicate balance between personal desire and communal responsibility. In studying Jezebel, we confront the enduring question of human nature. What happens when intellect, charisma, and ambition collide with moral and divine law? Jezebel's legacy is paradoxical. On one hand, she is vilified as the ultimate symbol of wickedness. On the other, she exemplifies resilience, intelligence, and strategic mastery in a society that offered women few avenues to influence. To understand her fully is to recognize the interplay of power, gender, religion, and history, a complex figure whose life continues to provoke discussion, debate, and fascination to this day. Even today, Jezebel's influence permeates culture. She appears in literature, art, and modern media as a representation of rebellion, ambition, and the dangers of defying societal norms. Her story endures because it touches something universal: the eternal struggle between individual will and moral order, between desire and consequence, between darkness and light. Jezebel's end was as dramatic as her life, a violent fall that fulfilled prophecy, yet one whose echoes reached far beyond the palace walls of Samaria. She had ruled with cunning, intelligence, and audacity, challenging kings, prophets, and even the divine order. Her death was meant to be a lesson, a warning to all who dared defy God's will. Yet her story refuses to fade. It lingers in the shadows of history, in whispers of power, ambition, and the dangerous allure of rebellion.